Greetings, people of the internet. I'm Scott with Serkworks Art Labs. Welcome once again to the underground laboratory where we create robots, aliens, zombies, and other imminent threats to humanity. We also create comics because we are in the middle of the 100 Days of Making Comics Challenge, where you spend 30 minutes a day, every day, working on your own personal comic book project. My personal comic book project is this one. Young and the Dead is a kids versus zombies story. It's like Goonies meets Night of the Living Dead. You've probably heard that a million times if you've been watching it, but if you're new, now you know what that's about. So you can find that at Serkworks.com, as well as issues 1 and 2. That's issue 3, and I'm working on issue 4 right now. So let's see, where are we today? Let's see, we are day what? Day 47, I think? All right, so we got the big fat Sharpie. Day 47, we write it down so we know where we're at, so we don't lose track. I wanted to talk about something before we go on to the paralleloscope and see what's going on with the process of the comic book. What I'm thinking about right now, I'm in the middle of, designing pages and everything, and penciling and all that stuff, and I'm thinking a lot about panels, or I have been thinking a lot about panels. So I just wanted to share a few thoughts about panels with you in case you're working on comics, or you want some tips and things like that. The first tip I want to give you, if you're not familiar with this thing, Wallywood's 22 panels that always work. You can find it online. Just Google Wallywood's 22 panels that always work. That's it right here, but you can find it, and it's got all kinds of great little surefire panels, ways to go. So that's like a must-have, something you've got to check out. If you haven't seen that already, go check that out. So as far as panels go, just some tips and things that I'm thinking about. So when you're designing your panels, a lot of people, will say, you want to stick to that 9-panel grid, and that's great advice. So there's a lot of things that, when in doubt, stick to play it safe, because you can't go wrong with that 9-panel grid. And of course, you don't want to go too much more than 9 panels, although in a minute I'm going to show you some instances that work where you can do that, but you kind of want to play it safe, so usually you want to keep it less than 9 panels, all right? So that's kind of and 9 panels even is quite a bit, really. I've been accused in a lot of instances of going over that, because sometimes I try to cram a lot in, and probably not the best thing to do, but anyway, so let me show you an instance here where I happen to kind of buck that trend of the 9 panels. So you can see, what do I got here? I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 panels. That's a lot. But there's a specific reason for doing that, and it all comes down to storytelling. With this scene right here, what I'm trying to do is kind of draw out a scene. I'm trying to make it seem like it's boring. They're sitting at this table, everyone's kind of minding their own business, they're not talking to each other, and I just want to show kind of the passage of time and just all the different characters, what they're doing. So it's got some small panels and everything, but I think it's effective that way. So that's just one of the tricks that I do. There's another one here where I've got quite a bit of panels, and again, it's the more panels you have, the more time has elapsed. So if you're gonna go with a lot of panels, make sure you know what you're doing. And it comes down to, if you guys are designers or whatever, if you've seen, sometimes one thing you'll see with newer designers, maybe inexperienced designers, is, say, like with Photoshop, they'll go, and Photoshop has all these crazy filters and stuff, and a lot of times inexperienced designers will see all these filters and things and oh man, I want to use this and I want to use that, and they try to throw every single thing in, and it just comes off looking really bad. And sometimes that can be the case with comics, because you look and you see all these cool panels and stuff like that, but if you're not careful, it can look really garish, and it can disrupt your storytelling. So kind of if you're kind of beginning with comics, keep it simple, and as you go, then you kind of learn how to do different things, and then you can take advantage of some of these other tricks. But so here's another scene. Now this is right before the zombie apocalypse happens. I've got my main character Sam. He's kind of dozing off, so you can kind of see, and this may look like a cheat because it's just solid black in a lot of cases, but there's a reason behind it, and this is showing him he's kind of falling asleep. He's getting tired, his eyes are closing, so you kind of see, you know, his eyelids. This is to insinuate his eyelids kind of closing, and then it'll go black, and then they kind of open again, and then it kind of open and close. So stuff like that. I used a lot of panels here, but there is a reason for that. Now, again, it kind of goes back to that keep it simple, stupid thing that I've been talking about. If you play it safe, go with the 9-panel grid and everything. But you know, I do that a lot with most of my books. You can kind of see it's pretty basic, nothing too fancy. The only time I get really fancy is when the zombies in my story show up. So then my panels kind of go a little off kilter and get crazy, because I want to show this, like, just this, like, you don't know what's going on, like, it's, you know, you're being attacked, so everything's crazy, and so I'll do that. So you can see when the zombies are attacking, I've got these panels, and they're just kind of all over the place, and they get a little crazier, and you can kind of see, and there's a lot of, you know, you've got your panels with borders. Sometimes I've got panels, you know, with no borders around them, kind of open panels. That's another technique you can use. Splash pages. This is, well, it's sort of a splash page. It's got panels in it. A splash page sometimes can just be one big giant spread, or you can kind of break it up like this. I don't do that a lot, but sometimes I'll do that just for effect. So there's some ideas right here. You know, again, just try to make sure that the flow of the comic, it makes sense. Everyone reads in sort of a Z formation, so be careful. You know, make note of where your characters are looking at. Like, you want to have your characters either looking in that direction or facing that direction. You can actually have a character who's facing off to where you don't want your readers to go. But if maybe they're facing this way, but their eyes are kind of looking that way, because you're always going to follow the eye. So little tricks like that. I can get more into that later. Yeah, what are some other, you know, I talked about open panels, splash pages, establishing shots. So let's see. So this is how the story starts off. Usually when you're starting off, you want a nice establishing shot, just so you can show what's going on in the book, so people know where they're at. Because if you start off with a close-up and people don't, I mean, and again, there's exceptions to every rule, because there could be a particular reason why you want to start off with a close-up. If you know, it's, you know, kind of like in film. I mean, you can do a lot of things, but typically you want to let people know where they are in the story. So this is how my book starts off. You can see the two of the main characters, Sam and Mitch. They're kind of walking in their neighborhood. You got a nice big shot. You can kind of see what their neighborhood looks like. So it's a fairly, you know, it's a middle-class neighborhood. It's a nice neighborhood, and you know, we're just kind of, later on when the apocalypse happens, you get to see the same neighborhood, but it's changed quite a bit. So I wanted that kind of juxtaposition right there. Nice, good establishing shots is another thing. Yeah, there's, so, you know, always, and also keep in mind the page turner. You always want, you know, for the most part, you want to end a page, and you want people to, you know, be excited to turn that page and ready to turn that page. So think about that too. There's a whole lot more I can talk about as far as panels, but these intros are we're supposed to get to the comic book making. Well, we're talking about comic book making, so that's all right too. But anyway, those are some thoughts on panels. If you got any panel tricks, some cool things that you do when you're working with panels, let me know. Leave that in the description. But without any further ado, we're going to go right up here to the paralleloscope and see what's going on as I work on Young and the Dead.
so I am in the middle of penciling page 2 of Young and the Dead. Actually, I did some work on this yesterday, but the vlog was getting a little long, so I opted to show you guys this stuff from the observatory, which I thought was a little more interesting since we've been showing a lot of drawing. And actually, I think this vlog is going to be a little long too. This is probably going to be one of the longest ones. But you know, I mean, I've definitely done longer videos than these, but I'm trying to keep the vlogs pretty concise. But anyway, so here we are again in Manga Studio, and what's going on here? In the first page we started, you know, bird's eye view, moved into this Gen Core research facility where the zombie outbreak happened, and kind of like ground zero. And now we've kind of pushed in through the doors, and now we're kind of going through a hallway, and there's some unusual stuff going on. There's a little guy somebody with a cart. We don't quite see who they are, and yeah, some weird, unusual stuff's gonna go down, which probably won't even reveal what's going on until later on in the series. I don't know about next issue, maybe the issue after that. We'll see. But yeah, so there's some mystery involved here, and so I don't want to give too much of it away. But yeah, so again, same thing with, you know, I am new to Manga Studio if you guys are new to this, but I'm trying to learn how to do it. There's certain things that would just be quicker for me to do traditionally, but definitely this perspective stuff, even with all the problems I have setting up the rulers and the rulers mysteriously disappearing, it is helpful. So as we pan down, I'm going to just draw one panel, and then I'm going to duplicate this because it's one of those scenes where we see sort of the same panels, slightly different variations because there's actioning happening. We want to show that action. So sometimes it's just easier to copy and paste, and you know, then tweak things around. But so that's going to probably wrap it up for this. Getting close to finishing this page, and then I'll print it out and then hopefully start inking it soon. Now we're back in Flagstaff. Going to take a little walk before we head back, and nice and snowy. This will probably be the last snow we get. Well, who knows? Strange things have happened but the weather's been really weird this year. But it's yeah, it's kind of cool just to take a walk in the snow. Man, what a beautiful view.
We're back to say goodbye to another day of making comics. 100 days of making comics. We are day 47, or we were at day 47. We're all done with 47, so we're going to pull that off the big pad. We're going to crumble it up. We're going to toss that in the trash, and I'll see you tomorrow for day 48. See you then, that is all.
Hey everyone, you've seen the process, now you can check out the story. Issues 1 through 3 of Young and the Dead are available at my website at serkworks.com. Also follow me on social media at the links listed below. Subscribe and check out some of the other videos in the series. There's much more.